All right, so ready to dive into today's business and finance news. Feels like we've got a lot to unpack today.
Definitely. A lot to make sense of in the markets today, for sure.
Yeah, U.S. stock futures are down this morning, and it feels like everyone's kind of holding their breath for this upcoming inflation report. I think the Fed's going to keep hiking rates.
Well, this CPI data is going to be really telling. If that core inflation, and by that we mean excluding those jumpy food and energy prices, if that stays stubbornly high, yeah, the Fed's probably going to keep their foot on the brake, so to speak.
Got to keep that in check.
But even a little softening there, even a little, could signal a change. And that could really give the markets a boost, a little pep in their step.
Yeah, everyone's waiting for that. Speaking of, things needing a boost, looks like Domino's Pizza missed their sales expectations this time around. Guess even pizza night's feeling the pinch.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, Domino's not exactly a luxury, right? Kind of shows you people are getting a little more careful with their money, even when it comes to those little treats.
Makes you wonder. And yet you've got Delta Airlines, and they're over there projecting a record-breaking quarter. Strong holiday bookings, sure, but they're also expecting to sell those tickets at higher prices. How's that adding up?
See, this is what I mean about things being interesting right now. Consumers might be cutting back in some places, absolutely, but experiences, travel, that's still king, even if it means digging a little deeper into those pockets. Says a lot about Delta's position too, doesn't it? They're feeling pretty good if they think they can raise prices and people will still book.
Makes sense. So it's not all doom and gloom, more like?
Yeah.
Some areas are sunny, some are, well, less so.
Exactly. Got to look at the specifics, what's the industry, how are people behaving in that industry? It's all got to be considered.
For sure. All right, well, since we're on the subject of companies doing their thing, let's jump over to tech for a second. AMD's about to drop their new line of AI chips. Looks like they're going straight for NVIDIA's lunch.
Yeah, bold move going right at the king, huh? But think about the timing. Demand for AI, those chips, it's through the roof, and AMD knows this is their chance to grab a piece of that very tasty pie. Gonna be fun to see how NVIDIA responds. They won't just sit back, right?
Tech Battle Royale coming soon to a market near you. Okay, switching gears a bit here, let's talk Buffett. His Berkshire Hathaway just went and raised almost $2 billion, but get this, by issuing bonds in Japanese yen. Samurai bonds, they call them.
No, that is interesting. See, Buffett, he's all about those long-term plays, right? So for him to be putting this much faith in Japan, that says something. Makes you wonder if maybe, just maybe, the Japanese market is where it's at right now, at least for some big players.
The Oracle of Omaha has spoken. Okay, from Japan to heartburn relief, I guess. GSK, the pharmaceutical giant, they just settled a whole bunch of those Zantac lawsuits.
Yeah, for $2.2 billion, which I know sounds like an insane amount of money.
Because it is.
Oh, it absolutely is. But, and this is important, that's actually way less than analysts were expecting. So for GSK, it's like this big weight's been lifted, right? But it also makes you think, what does this mean for other pharma companies? Are lawsuits and the risk they bring something investors need to be even more wary of now?
Good question. And a good reminder that even with the best predictions, there's always an element of the unknown.
Always.
All right, so before we move on to some other interesting tidbits, anything from this first part that really stands out to you, something our listeners should really keep in mind?
I think the biggest takeaway, at least so far, is that we're not looking at one big happy market or one big sad market. It's more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
You've got areas like consumer goods, they're hurting, people are being more careful with their money. But then you've got travel, you've got AI, and those are booming.
Yeah.
So yeah, pay attention to those big trends, absolutely. But don't forget to look at what's happening in each specific sector. It's all connected, but not always moving in the same direction.
Solid advice, solid advice. All right, with that in mind, let's move on to some of the other big stories we're seeing today. All right, so we've seen how companies like Delta and these AI companies are, really capitalizing on things, changing consumer trends, tech advancements, all that. But now, how about this for a curveball? Looks like even the big dogs, Apple and Amazon, are realizing that teamwork can be a good thing, especially in such a competitive world.
It's true, yeah. This Apple TV Plus and Amazon Prime partnership, that's a big deal.
Big deal. So wait, does that mean like I could be watching, Ted Lasso right alongside like ordering more socks or whatever on Amazon?
Basically, yeah. It's all about content these days, right? The more the merrier. And for Apple and Amazon, well, this just gets them in front of more eyeballs, plain and simple. Plus, let's be honest, for us regular viewers, it's pretty great.
Oh, for sure. Give me all the options. Okay, so from teaming up, let's talk about maybe getting bought out. GXO Logistics, they seem to be the talk of the town over in, the logistics world, I guess.
Yeah, all those rumors about GXO getting takeover offers, they're not going away.
So warehouses, the new hot commodity, or what? What's with all the fuss about GXO?
Think about everything we've been talking about, e-commerce, supply chains being all over the place. That's put a huge premium on efficiency. And GXO, well, they're like the wizards of warehouses. They know how to make things run smoothly. That's gold these days.
So basically, if you're a company in 2024 and your logistics game is sloppy, you're in trouble.
More or less, yeah. It's not just about keeping up anymore, it's about staying ahead of the curve. And for some companies, that means bringing in the big guns, even if it means, potentially being acquired.
Makes you think, for sure. Okay, so before we put a pin in this whole deep dive thing, any last thoughts, things that have really stuck with you today? So yeah, lots to think about today, huh? Inflation got us on edge. These companies are merging left and right. It's a wild world out there, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and I think that's the biggest takeaway, honestly. You really got to stay on top of things. And I don't just mean reading the headlines. Understanding the why, the how, the who, that's what gives you an edge in this kind of market.
Right, knowledge is power and all that.
Exactly. And speaking of things to keep an eye on, inflation. That's not going away anytime soon. It's still the big elephant in the room, driving those central bank decisions, keeping everyone guessing what's next.
Makes it hard to plan, for sure.
It does. So more than ever, you got to be ready to adapt, to pivot. Consumer behavior changes, technology changes even faster, the market. Well, the market just loves to keep us on our toes, right? Those who can roll with those punches, they're the ones who come out on top.
It's adapt or get left behind, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. So if I could leave our listeners with just one thought, just one, it would be this. Don't just react, think. Don't just follow the crowd, understand why you're going that way in the first place. Because like we saw with Delta, with Buffett and those Japanese bonds, there's always opportunity out there. You just got to know where to look, and more importantly, why you're looking there.
Words of wisdom. All right, well, that about wraps it up for us today. Thank you, as always, for joining us on this little deep dive into the market. And remember, stay curious out there.
Always.
That's all we ask.
And next time.